were talking about how in adolescence some people, real people, latch onto another person's family. And Claire was saying,
yeah, that my family would take other children with us. And there was one friend of my brother's who my mother said we should adopt because he's always at our house for dinner. Come at 5 o'clock, he's knocking on the door.
Well, part of the growing experience is always to experience another family's different than yours, because that, you're going to grow by getting involved with that family. It's not going to stay in your roots and you're just going to stay with your own family. There's a new family and there's a new reality and new values.
yeah.
So how did this pertain to the play?
We were discussing how the lead female was part of that family, and the meaning that it had for her, even though Marty was gay, obviously there wasn't a sexual relationship there. And we had earlier spoken about the role of the mother and her dislike of this woman, this young girl at the time, and why she...
Goodbye. Hope to see you again.
I'm on the list now, so get told when you're having another one.
I'm doing a play.
You want to say something?
Yes. When I was growing up,
Good night. Thanks for coming.
I was really hoping that my best friend's mother would. I kept wishing she were my mother.
Yeah,
But she was very loving and affectionate, and my mother was, in a nutshell, clinically insane. And as it
How many
turned
men I've
out,
heard say that?
but my mother was spent 40 or 50 years in a mental hospital.
Oh, that's it.
But as it turned out, my best friend turned out to be gay, and I was absolutely, holy shit. And then I wondered whether his mother...
You better have another one.
No. I thought, oh my goodness, was it Ruthie, his mother? And then, of course, you go through all this whole thing, why? And his younger brother was straight and just lived a normal married life and stuff.
It's like Marty and Bobby.
Yeah. So then I wondered, maybe it was...
I think what David said is true. You know your own household until you're an adolescent, and then when you go into somebody else's household, you realize families can be different. You know, parents can be different than the ones you're used to. Brothers and sisters can be different. And it's that first kind of opening up before you step out into the wider world. And that was a lot of the attraction for Cynthia of that household, and that's why she felt also rejected by the mother. Like, I'm okay at home, I get along with my mother. She had her adolescent rebellion with her friends.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's true. I never thought of it that way.
David, better have a third one.
Are you?
No.
How about we split one?
Split a bottle or a...
No.
Bottle.
You want to split?
Mark, you're really getting carried away. No, just a glass.
Yeah. You're serious? Oh, all right, we'll have one and we'll split it.
You're going to have one and then split another one?
No, one between us.
See, Mark doesn't drink, so he's trying to get us to drink.
David's 27-year-old nephew was there last night, and he was in a wrap, but it's not the same.
Not the same. No, not at all, not at all.
No, he said he didn't understand it.
First of all, at that time that the play is set, there would have been, there was a whole change in the entire culture, in the entire world, and really, unless you lived it, you don't understand it. Because it was
podemos haber
probably sadly now,
vaso
a lot of the people,
entre
nosotros
dos.
kind of isolated.
Un Malbec.
It was something that permeated the entire culture.
Nosotros.
And the middle class and the upper class, you know, they had to plan how to escape the draft, or figure out if they were going to go to graduate school, because it meant then they wouldn't get into the army and go to Vietnam, and it permeated the culture then in a way that now
I hope my Spanish.
I think
I hope I was able to
going
communicate.
into
Sounds
the
very
military
good to me, 'cause
has
I wouldn't know
become
the
much
difference.
more of a class issue. You know.
And also back then there were so many social issues of women becoming people and being accepted as people, and it all and people had optimism and hope and civil rights, and you believed that there was a possibility that things could be better. As you get older, you're not so sure, but it was a whole it enveloped.
You know, women are.
So what do you think
Now,
in the play? In the play, where do you think that came up? How do you think they came up in the play?
Well, I found it very interesting that Cynthia apparently didn't have what I would think was a happy marriage from the way she was
That
describing
didn't
it.
sound it. No.
And the
Really?
fact
You got
that
that
she-
much out of it?
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
I just
Yeah.
sure.
What makes
Oh,
you
yeah.
say that?
She just,
Because the way she referred to her husband, the
Yeah,
way
it
she
was-
referred to
These are like an afterthought.
yeah, he was
yeah,
really like,
oh,
well,
no,
he,
okay, we're
yeah.
gonna do this for. I mean, this is not a woman who wants to go home and grab her husband.
Yeah,
and
really,
Just give him a big
that's
hug
for
and a
sure.
kiss.
And we're going to have the usual New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
And he
you
wasn't even
feel
part
that-
of New Year's Eve.
Yes,
he was.
He was, you sure?
Yeah, he was, but
I didn't think so.
Yeah, yeah,
I
he
thought
was.
he wasn't.
Oh yeah, he's part
That's
of
a
New
good
Year's
point
Eve.
you made.
I thought he was out chasing rainbows.
there was, but then she never really. I think what Marion was saying about the adolescent, her going through her adolescence with this other family, she never really grew up.
Yes.
Insofar as she never
She was a-
became. And Marty at least became what he wanted to be,
Yeah.
or what he was. But she just, whatever, settled, we don't know, but that's the feeling that you get. And she'll go
I
through the
agree.
rest of her life like that. Whereas, as you said, with the ending, we know that Bobby will, well, we hope that he won't go through the rest of his life like that. Hopefully he'll
No, I think hopefully he's learned his lessons, but that's scene 3, scene 2. That's your job now.
No problem. Yeah, see. What was that? I don't know. Okay. Oh, okay.
See, I didn't get any of that as the
Oh,
writer.
okay.
To me, I just didn't bring in her life now. It
Well, you
was
have to talk it over with the man.
It was walking through the door
Him.
and seeing.
No, I'm staying out of this.
No, you're not. You can't stay. If your wife's writing plays, you can't stay out of it.
Obviously.
Yeah.
To me, Cynthia walked through the door and reverted to teenage.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
She was
her-
so mad about it. She was an angry teenager.
She was an angry teenager. She reached back to that, and her present day life it's not what the play's about. Not the play's about at all, in my view. But I only wrote it, so.
what do you know?
Yeah.
That's not an unusual
Yeah.
reaction.
But
to your own play.
when they leave, when they part, he's like an empty vessel waiting to be filled. She has a life to go back to. That's how I felt.
I felt that her life back to was not one she would cling to.
That's a very romantic attitude.
I thought she could move into Robert's world easily.
The best thing she could have done is jump into bed with that guy.
Right.
Well, that.
Which would happen in Hollywood. That would have happened.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but no, but that.
But that's kind of
But that would no, you couldn't do
But
it.
you know
You
what's
couldn't do
going to
it.
happen.
You couldn't do it.
But you didn't even get the feeling that she actually realized what Bobby was going through, either as an
No, probably
adolescent
not.
or now.
She tried her best.
But she just didn't get it. And here was this really warm, vulnerable man talking to her, and she was wherever she
tried.
was.
Yeah,
well,
She gave him the fake book and she gave him the
Yeah,
guitar.
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, he gave her the guitar and the fake
She
book.
was still back there when the line, when there was a very clear demarcation between people who supported the war and people who did this and the others, and probably presumed that he looked down on his brother. I don't know about that, but anyway, there was a very clear demarcation once upon a time, and she was still in it.